open the meeting. And because it's being recorded, why don't we just take a moment to identify who is present in person and who is on Zoom. So starting at the left of myself in person.
I'm in person, Stephanie Short, the committee coordinator.
Kirsty Johnstone, committee member.
I'm Daniel Martin, I'm the manager of planning and development.
Brenda McLuhan, member of the APC.
And Richard Underdown, APC member as well.
And Michael Penny, member and chair. And on Zoom, we have
Martin Piccolo, member of APC.
Thank you. Let's see, Alex is here, right? Alex Jurgensen?
Correct.
Councillor, Alex, yes. Dane Thompson, member of the public, related proponent on one of the applications. Lydia Minot from Metro Vancouver. And who is iPhone SE?
This is Councillor Jurgensen.
Okay,
I can rename you, Councillor.
that's fine. So we have quorum, and I would ask for one suggestion about the agenda. I'm wondering, since Dane is here, if we shouldn't do the Fox Club application first, so that he doesn't have to sit through the rest of the meeting. Is that?
Sure.
Yeah, could I then have a motion to approve that agenda as amended? Thank you, Brenda. Seconded by Kirsty, all in favor? Good. And the people on Zoom, I don't know if you could either speak up or use the hands or something, just so we know. Okay, you have the minutes of the March 14th, 2023 meeting. Does anyone have any comments on them? The only thing I noticed is one place that Bowen Island is not capitalized. There. Other than that, they seem fine to me. Any other comments? A motion, please, to approve them. Kirsty, seconded by Brenda. Detecting a trend here. All those in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Unanimous. Okay, could we then jump to, if we don't have any member of the public for comments, jump to the second council referral, 4.2, development permit application 1104 and 1108 Foxglove Lane. Now, Daniel, did you want to set the ground, or should we get Mr. Thompson to speak first?
I can give the presentation that sort of gives you the history of this application and then turn it over and let Dane fill in some of just the recent updates.
I think that would be helpful to orient us. Thank you. So Daniel, the floor is yours.
So the APC has been referred a development variance permit for two properties in Foxglove Lane. Okay, so located along Foxglove Lane is along Miller Road, immediately south of the Bowen Court, at the end of sort of the single family lots that are along Miller as you pass before you cross over the Terminal Creek culverts. So this application was received by the municipality in September of 2022. There was internal review and amendments, initial notice given in April. We introduced it to council May 8th. And council at that meeting referred it to the advisory design panel and the advisory planning commission. And so this timeline is showing design panel met in July to review the proposal and some of the concepts and alternatives of the design. And so we are now at APC for this referral, and then we would return it to council. And council didn't give the initial introduction, and so to proceed with the variance, they would need to give an introduction period and a notice period before consideration. So at least 2 more council meetings. There are so this area is in our village residential designation in our official community plan, and there are a couple policies that specifically relate to townhouse development within this designation. So policy 160 talks about the scale and character of the development can blend in with the surrounding natural environment. It can be adequately serviced. Back to that, the impacts on adjacent properties pertaining to traffic, privacy, screening, and views can be adequately managed. And then policy 167 saying it should be consistent with the scale and diversity of the village. Townhouses should be designed to minimize detrimental effects on adjacent single detached homes. And this is just highlighting that it's in a development permit area for form and character. So if the application receives a variance or proceeds with building under the current zoning, they would need a development permit that is referred to the advisory design panel as well for the form and character of the building. Those are just the guidelines that are in this development permit area. So there's only 5 guideline points. They're fairly sparse, but point 2 being designing buildings and landscaping should minimize the obstruction of views from existing properties, blend in well with existing natural features, gives the impression of small scale building forms, and connect with the proposed pathway system for the village. So the DVP application that was received by council at that May 8th meeting sought to reduce setbacks. It sought to increase the number of stories of the building, although not the overall height, and proposed to increase the floor area from a floor square ratio of 0.85, which allowed about 460 square meters of floor area, proposed to increase it to 1.34, so about 728 square meters, so an additional 263 square meters. And then it proposed to increase the maximum dwelling size in the zone from 140 square meters to 180 square meters. And that was, you'll see in the report, sort of the driving impetus for these changes was the moratorium on connections to the sewer system in Snow Cove. And so the application was to essentially build a septic field at the back of the combined 2 lots, move the building forward. And then the application was to increase the overall size of the building, in essence, to compensate for the additional development cost of developing the septic field. But so you'll see that you're aware, so on the council agenda for the September 11th meeting, we've determined that based on capacity increases, that there is capacity in the system to permit the remaining market lots on Foxglove to connect to the system. So that has been relayed to those owners, is going to council to inform council of that decision. And so the applicant in response has requested an amendment to their variance application. So remove the requested variances to the setback, to the stories, to the maximum dwelling size. But they have requested an amendment to their variance application to vary the permitted FSR from 0.85 to 1.0 FSR. So it would increase the floor area of a building from about 5,000 square feet, increase it to about 5,800 or 5,900 square feet. So that is about the information that I have to share. And then I would invite Dane, if he is here, if he wants to provide any additional context or presentations for the commission.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Can everybody hear me?
We can, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share. Sorry?
Sorry, just quickly to the
Can you
chair.
hear us?
Yep, I can hear you guys.
I can
Okay,
hear you well. But just to the chair, this is Alex. I would like to recuse myself from this part of the meeting as I am resident of the property directly south of this property.
Counselor, you're not a voting member, but thank you for bringing that up, but it's okay.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry
so
about that, Dave.
Thank you.
that's okay. That's okay. I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to Jay and I. It has been a long road. And rather than Jay speak and then I speak, we decided to make just a little video. So I just wanted to share my screen and let me know if you can't hear it. But we just put together all of our thoughts and we just wanted to get rid of all the other requests and just ask for the FSR, and that's it. And our reasons are within this video. So just one sec. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, desktop. Okay, can you see the screen?
I think we're seeing some of your background. Oh, there you go.
Okay, so let me make it big. And let me press play.
We thank the Advisory Planning Commission for allowing us to speak and hope you've had an opportunity to read our update letter given to you today by Daniel. We present our amended property variance application, an endeavor we believe will bring immense value to our community. It's an effort inspired by the need for diverse housing, local building innovation, and growth. We seek your support for a variance application that could have a positive and transformative impact on our island's housing landscape. Our proposal is all about utilizing space more efficiently. As you know, our property is uniquely positioned, and while this presents certain challenges, it also opens up opportunities for creative solutions. We're requesting an increase in the floor space ratio, FSR, from the current 0.85 to 1.0. This seemingly modest adjustment carries the potential to address some of the housing challenges our community faces while aligning with progressive housing policies that have been embraced by our neighbors in Vancouver. As many of you are aware, the City of Vancouver has taken a bold step in addressing housing affordability and diversity, the missing middle housing, through new zoning amendments. The initiative recognizes the need for adaptable and innovative housing solutions in single-family zones, which, as you are aware, closely mirrors the situation we find ourselves in on Bowen Island. The program supports the development of multiplex buildings, similar to the one presented to you today in this variance application. One of the mechanisms they use to implement this program is by increasing the FSR to 1.0. We've adopted this rate in our amended application. We acknowledge that supporting a variance is not a decision to be taken lightly. Our proposal, however, is not about bending rules for convenience. It's about responding to a unique situation with a unique solution we experience here right on Bowen Island in response to the changing needs and dynamics of our own community. It is a step towards a more inclusive, adaptable, and sustainable housing landscape.
One of the key points which favors this variance application is the changing landscape of housing needs. Our community, like many others, is evolving. Families are growing, and there's an increasing desire for housing options that meet various lifestyles, from young professionals to seniors looking to downsize. The Vancouver program highlights the importance of accommodating this changing demographic through the introduction of various housing types, and this principle should not be limited to urban centers alone. We've made sure to consider the community in our plans too. We believe the proposed changes will not only improve our property, but also contribute positively to the local area. In 2022, we've sought the input of immediate neighbors, and now with the availability of sewer capacity for our development, we're in a position to incorporate their feedback into our new design as reflected in our amended variance application. This project isn't just about us, it's about the community. We want to ensure our neighbors feel heard and respected, and part of the process of creating their neighborhood. This year's community update meeting will address the new changes we're implementing into our design and give an opportunity for neighbors to see their feedback incorporated into the fresh new conceptual drawings which we're working on.
Vancouver's new program encourages innovative approaches to housing, promoting diverse housing types such as duplexes, triplexes, and other missing middle options. By increasing the FSR to 1.0, like we've done in our own application, they open the door to the construction of more adaptable and versatile housing units like the fourplex we wish to build. We understand that a variance is an exception, not a rule, but we firmly believe that our case is unique and that the benefits of our proposal significantly outweigh any potential drawbacks. In conclusion, we urge the committee to consider our application not just as a request for an exception, but as an opportunity to bring about positive change, to facilitate innovation, and to support a project that values community feedback, environmental responsibility, and inclusivity. Thank you for considering our application. We're open to any questions or clarifications you may require, and we look forward to working together to make this vision a reality. We believe that with your support, we can create something truly beneficial for Bowen Island.
So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
That's all I wanted to say. We actually, when we say diverse housing, before the moratorium, I was actually going to build senior housing on lot 10. 1 unit for rental, 1 unit for senior housing, with options to purchase or to rent. And I firmly believe we need more housing and more housing options. So after the moratorium and having to come together with my lot neighbor, we're still committed to offering different kinds of options. And the program in Vancouver, I mean, that really speaks to us, and we should really do something about the problem on Bowen. which has been a severe problem. There was a 2019 report, housing report that Bowen paid for, and it talks about what it's going to be like in the future, and we're experiencing that now. To have to leave the island because my mom is 88 years old, that didn't sit well with me, but I could not find proper accommodation. So it needs to happen. It really needs to happen. And we are so grateful to be able to connect to the sewer. And thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, please ask me.
Does anybody in the room or online have any questions for Mr. Thompson? Richard?
It's not entirely clear to me what the difference will be between the 0.85 FSR and the modest increase to 1.0. I believe you'll still be able to build a fourplex with the existing, within the existing land use requirement. What will the additional FSR, what will the additional benefit be? Will there be more bedrooms? Will there be still a fourplex, correct?
That's correct. I don't know if, you saw my letter earlier, right?
Yes.
Okay. So one of it is actually to recoup some of the costs that we have incurred. And that was.
Sorry, the speaker system is just a little bit fuzzy. Could you repeat that?
So one of the things is to recoup some of the costs that we've incurred since the beginning of this moratorium. And that was in the letter. But the more important thing is in our design, like, I don't know if you're aware, there is one for sale on Foxglove right now. And the bedroom sizes are really small. You can go and look at the MLS listing. We want to put the extra square footage in the bedroom so that it's not so cramped. You have to have stacking beds for your children in 2 of the bedrooms, and it's really tight in the master. We just want to add some more livable elbow room in your own private space, which is your bedroom. That's it.
I did see one of the bedrooms was 10 feet by 10 feet, I believe.
Yeah,
that's tight.
they're small. They're very small. If you look at that MLS listing, because the lots are so small, if you put 3 bedrooms in there, it's hard. But we want to give the option of, if you want a 2-bedroom, okay. If you want a 3-bedroom, okay, right? We want to give that option because there's people that want to downsize too and don't need a 3-bedroom. But the extra square footage we'd like to put in the bedrooms to feel not so elbow type of thing, So.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Are any of them going to be set up wheelchair accessible, bathroom wheelchair accessible? Because that takes up a lot of space, I know.
Absolutely. So my design just before the moratorium, I designed, I wanted to do wheelchair accessible, and I looked in the cost of actually installing an elevator, right? So we're going to offer 3 things. I already have the layout. Wheelchair accessible with the elevator chute to the 2nd floor, or and what you see on the plans, and I don't mind sharing this with this committee after the meeting. My prior design, I had actually a lift from the 1st floor all the way up to the 2nd floor, and everything was wheelchair wide if you wanted to have a wheelchair on both floors, right? So you can have a wheelchair on the 1st floor and use the lift to go upstairs, right? And you have a wheelchair upstairs, and all the hallways were wide, wheelchair accessible, and the bathroom, each bedroom had a bathroom in it themselves. So it's something I wanted to bring to the island because I know we're struggling for senior housing big time. So it's an option we want to give when we sell the lots. We actually want to develop the lots, right? So this and give options.
Yeah, I guess my question kind of flows on what you just said. And that is, are these units for you to retain and rent out, or is your intention to sell them?
A mixture of all. Rent, sell, and I think two of my partners would like to actually invest in one and own one, and the other one would be a mixture of something else. We want to, the whole thing is about diverse housing, diverse options.
So that sounds like at least 2 of the 4 will be rental units?
That was the intention, yes.
Okay.
Because in my building alone, it was going to be half my building, so we're still going with the half of the units will be at the market on the island to deal with the housing crisis.
Is there anyone on Zoom with a question?
My question was just answered, so thank you.
So a lot of the things that we asked for before, 4 floors, the extra square footage, the setbacks, we don't need any of that. But we would like to offer housing that you can feel pride in, that you're happy to be home and that you have enough room, literally. Like downstairs in an open concept living room, dining room, you feel open space. But if you go into a 10 by 10 bedroom, you got to make sure you can't have a king size bed, right? So you got to make sure you pick your furniture correctly, right?
Okay, it's Michael. You mentioned a community update meeting.
Yes.
Which community is that? Just the immediate neighbors, or?
Well, we changed our mind on that. Last year we did immediate neighbors and did a call with our immediate neighbors. We emailed them as well, answered all questions. This year, what we want to do is put an ad out into the undercurrent, and not just the immediate neighbors, but that if anyone has a question, just like you're having questions, you're not my immediate neighbors, but you have questions, right? So we're putting it in the undercurrent, and it will be a Zoom call, and anybody that wants to come can come and ask, can come see what's proposed to go up. It's our community.
Okay, and it occurs to me that the people most affected by this in terms of the neighbor are the Bowen Court residents. Have you heard from them at all?
Yes, we did. They did not like the last version of our variance application. This version is a scale that they would approve, right? The extra square footage does not take anything away from their view.
I think your other neighbor, although it's probably academic at this point, is the Snug Cove Housing Society, right?
No, it's not. It's we have 2 houses on either side of us. There's other.
Okay, sorry, I'm talking about outside the Foxglove development. But that forces me to ask this question anyway. This would be the first fourplex in the Foxglove development, if I could call it that, right?
No, it's not. It's the second. First one is on lot 1 and 2, which amalgamated, and
Okay. Well, it's funny. I was in the neighborhood just today, so I drove through and didn't notice that.
yeah, on lot 1 and 2, you'll see there's a big 4. It's the biggest building there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. So does the increase in FSR impact the height at all, or
No, it does not.
setbacks or anything like that?
No, it does not.
Okay.
That's why the impact with our neighbors will be 0, and we want to hear from our neighbors. So we will be putting in this ad into the undercurrent, and we can follow up with this committee if you want, with when that is going to be, and you're welcome to come too.
And this is probably for Daniel a little bit tricky here, but are there any other people lining up for a sewer connection?
I mean, so right in that report, staff had identified those lots in Foxglove as the sort of next on the list and where we were prepared to expand connections to. The moratorium exists for like all of the Suncoast sewer area. So anybody like on Bowen Island Trunk Road who wants to expand the existing building, anybody on Kate's Hill who wants to add a secondary suite, any of that is all captured and affected.
So staff is recommending that this a priority for this particular development.
Yeah, and in essence, there's some weighing of like, what do you do? And in essence, it's like, well, these lots are vacant, cannot develop, and don't have room for septic. So that was sort of.
Okay, and I suppose Mr. Thompson will hear from the others in the lineup if they're so inclined. Okay. Any other questions or comments? We are asked to make recommendations to council.
I say go for it.
Well,
course.
No. So it's so hard to work out what's on your mind, Kirsty. No, I agree. I do have two little ones myself. Brenda, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I don't know if everybody saw my question to Daniel, but just for everyone's benefit, in case you didn't, I had asked him if the other fourplex had any increase in their floor area, any variance, and the answer to that was no.
Okay.
And I'll just say too, in terms of where we are in the process. So council referred this to the APC, the ADP. When we'll come back to council. We'll notify neighbors before we come back to council. Council then is like mandated our policies in the Local Government Act as we give at least a month's period of notice period to issue notice to neighbors again that council would consider a variance. And it's possible for council in that period to refer it. So it could be referred again to the APC. Like I know for the APC, it's like you had a report in our agenda that asked for one thing and you probably looked into and you read and you visited the site and now you have an amendment. So you may say, yes, we're fine. This is minor compared to what was before. We're supportive. Or the APC could say, well, maybe, but we would like to see it again from enough information.
Okay. There were 2 points that I think might turn into recommendations. One is the accessibility options for, was it just one? It was one of the units, right, Mr. Thompson?
That's correct. And I
One more than usual, so that's good. And the second feature, the community update meeting and general publicity of that meeting. I think that's a wise step for you to take. So our recommendations could include approval of both those things as well as generally supporting the application. I see a lot of nodding here, but I can't see anybody online. Can we craft a motion to that effect, Steph?
Okay, I'll share screen. Martin, did you have something to say?
Well,
I'm just wondering what the mechanism of granting a variance here is. You know, like what I guess I'm struggling personally because I haven't seen drawings of this project, so it's hard to visualize what the impacts would be.
Okay, yeah, we saw a little bit of a mock-up of an outline, but it's not a serious architectural. I see Brenda and Richard. Brenda, you first, please.
Yeah, well, I kind of share Martin's concern, and I did say in my earlier email that I would find it difficult to make any specific recommendations tonight without actually seeing the revised drawings. So I throw that out there.
Okay.
I do think that there is a need for more diverse housing on this island. And I also think that close to the cove is the right place for it. And I'm also supportive of the idea of accommodating wheelchair accessibility. But I'd still like to see.
We can work with that.
What the drawings
The
are.
recommendations, Richard.
The drawings that I saw were for 3-bedroom units. And that's part of the reason the bedrooms feel so small. If they were 2-bedroom units, then obviously the need for an increased FSR may be minimized. So that is another consideration.
So where we seem to be heading is supporting the proposal in principle, but requesting that it return to the APC with drawings. And we support the proposed accessibility, and we support the community, the general publicization of the community update meeting. That moves things along for everybody, I think.
I would agree with that, yes.
Thanks, Mark. And Mr. Thompson, you don't get a vote, but you get a say.
Do you want me to share a screen?
Could you put that on a screen for us, Steph? My garbled summary there. Yeah, this just by way of editorial comment, this strikes me as being consistent with the original aim of that Fox Club development to create diverse, affordable housing. Although unfortunately, the definition of affordable seems to go up every,
Yeah, that's impossible.
yeah. You can't expect people to build things for free.
No.
Is the current fourplex owner occupied or
Yes.
is it a rental? That is.
As far as I know, it's completely owner occupied.
Okay, why don't we, Steph, after in principle, and
Okay.
adds these specific,
Okay, sorry, it was different from my originals, particular.
so, well, maybe we could just say, and what we're really doing is adding to that support in principle.
Okay.
Sorry, so
Yeah.
please support the revised
Okay,
component
sure.
application.
Yeah.
And do you want to do bullets here?
And, yeah, why don't you just say, and then after principal comma, say, and specifically supports,
And specifically supports, and just bullet them a little bit to get them.
yeah,
behind
and
it? Okay.
the accessibility features
Okay, so I
proposed.
don't think you need the in particular.
Sorry?
Particular, specific, that one. So,
Whatever.
proposed.
The accessibility option feature, like options, because if nobody wants to put it in, it's not going to be put in. And it shouldn't be put in because elevators are really expensive.
Yeah.
I think we just need to not specify that it has to have an elevator.
Oh, no, I don't think we're doing that, just option, propose accessibility options. And then after those two bullet points.
The proposed committee.
Rather than well publicized, say generally publicized, so that would be beyond the immediate neighbors.
Yeah.
Sorry, the grammar.
You could even say island-wide. Okay, good. And then no more bullet points, and we request that the application be returned to the commission.
Can we just consider the affordability issues briefly here? I'm just thinking about it. Is there a way perhaps the developer can illustrate how they are addressing this issue while increasing the FSR?
So you would like us to incorporate some options in terms of affordability included when we design the
Well,
plan?
at least provide a narrative on your, in your response to this.
That's no problem at all. No problem at all. And actually, I really appreciate this entire committee. Everything that you said speaks from our heart, and would be our pleasure to come back. No problem.
Well, sorry, Brenda, you had a final point? I mean, that will, I take it you got the message, so when it does come back to us, you will include that material. Brenda?
Yeah, it's not reflected in the recommendation as it stands. I don't think that we had wanted to see the drawings. So that might be in the latter part of the recommendation. Coming back to the commission once drawings have been provided. You return to the commission with drawings.
Right.
Can I just ask if we have purview over style and
No.
drawing? Like, so it's just sort of, like, as long as it's not going to impact somebody else.
Yeah, so with drawings and comment on affordability, comment on the affordable housing.
Affordability be addressed.
Yeah, I think the drawings would be for the purpose of visualizing the difference between the 0.85 and the 1.0.
Agreed. And also the impact on the neighbors it would have, right? Like if I'm saying it's not going to be any impact, I'd like to show you that in some drawings. Absolutely.
There is a consistency of style in that Foxglove development, I'll call it that. And I think you'd be wise enough to realize that there is such consistency.
Yes, we're designed to the
Okay, and what
design
kind of drawings?
guidelines for Foxglove Lane. There's design guidelines, plus it has to go through a review as well.
Okay, and what kind of drawings were you offering us, Mr. Thompson?
We're going to actually do blueprints, elevations, all the, the foundations, everything that we have. We're going to actually, we're in the process of doing it right now. We got rid of the conceptual drawing that you've seen and started from scratch, but we only found out about the sewer connect and started last week. So
Could we say site plan drawing, floor plans and elevations?
absolutely.
I was going to ask you for the proper technical language. Mark,
Yeah, I was
so
looking
that's-
for like Class B or something.
Okay,
Blueprints, we don't need. Digital files are fine.
blueprints are for the people actually building it, I think.
Site
Okay.
plans, drawings, floor plans,
How-
elevation needs a word.
Elevations.
Elevations. Yeah.
Okay.
Daniel, from your point of view, is there any downside to doing this? Like, it just seems to me all upside.
I mean, it's an increase in the floor area.
But is that a downside to anyone?
I mean, neighbors can think it's a downside.
In what way?
Well, that the increase impacts them.
Yeah, it puts it closer to the neighbors, right?
Like generally
I thought you
our zones,
didn't.
like our zones have a floor area maximum.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's just because we picked it out of the sky. Or, that's being rude, but you did it.
Yeah.
You did what everyone else, but it really is, it's not because if you do it closer than that, then you're gonna burn down the neighbor's building, or the rain's gonna run into the next person's yard. Like it's an arbitrary number. So that's where I'm asking,
Right.
is there gonna be when the deluge happens, is the extra FSR gonna make everything fall apart that it wouldn't have? I'm asking silly questions,
Yeah.
but really, is there a real downside?
Right. So in terms of those like questions, I think the building code covers it. Like one thing we've experienced in this development is that it allows, like you can see when you go there, smaller setbacks than most of Bowen.
Yeah.
The implication from that has like building code implications. You end up then very restricted in terms of like window openings,
Yeah.
and you need sprinklers and everything else. So it's like the zoning can allow more, but then you end up with more like building code requirements.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I assume, but I just thought I should ask.
So sometimes as you increase floor area on a site, it becomes more complex to develop the site.
It's not a substantial increase if that makes a difference. My way of thinking.
No.
anyway. Okay, are we ready to vote on this
Back up.
motion?
Clear?
Steph, could you read out your final version, please?
Sure. That the Advisory Planning Commission support the revised development permit application number DVP 2022-0282, 1104 and 1108, Foxglove Lane in principle, and specifically supports the proposed accessibility options and the island-wide community update meeting. And the APC requests that the application be returned to the commission with site plans, drawings, floor plans, and elevations, and that affordability be addressed.
Okay, somebody building, Daniel, you're looking
Oh, I was gonna say,
skeptical.
like, is the APC request like prior to council consideration of the variance? Or is it that,
Before approval, like,
I guess because what I'm saying, like, I'll go back to council, and probably the recommendation is, to issue the notice of a consideration date.
Okay,
Or is it that the APC says, no, go back, like, come back before council even sets a consideration date?
okay, I would have thought that council would catch on that we need to see it again before they issue their final. approval.
Yeah.
But if we want to be explicit about that, why not?
yeah, not up front, but before
Yeah.
Request before
final.
before the matter is finally dealt with by council. When you say
So is that
approval,
between
you're
2 and
assuming
3
something.
readings?
Well, so it's a variance, or does it have, like, technically a
Oh, right.
variance just needs like 2 appearances before council, we introduce it. Council sets it, like if it's the simplest variance in the world, introduce it to council, council sets a consideration date a month away, it comes back at that month. So it's like I could say, okay, well, we'll go back to council, introduce this new variance for 1.0 FSR, assuming we have enough details to proceed, gets referred to the APC prior to its consideration. Or the APC could say, well, no, we think we should go back to council and just get referred back to us with more details before you even set a consideration date.
Well, I think that's up to council to decide, and I wonder if we don't address it by just saying request that before final consideration by council and let them deal with the timing. Oh, sorry, it's after the word requests.
Okay.
Above. Copy, paste.
Copy and paste.
Oh, you're so good at this. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is somebody brave enough to propose? Of course, Brenda. Thank you. Second.
Moving along.
It's your turn, Richard.
Yes.
I have to let the people online not, okay. All in favor?
I am raising my hand.
Okay, it looks unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Thompson. Good luck with your initiative.
Yeah.
Thank you all, and thank you for listening and watching the video as well. Thank you.
Okay, now if we could go back to, I guess we revised the agenda, so it is the next item, the 8 Arbutus Road matter. And Daniel.
Okay. I think Sept is going to drive this PowerPoint. But this is a rezoning application that's come before the APC a couple of times. But so I'll give you just an overview of the application and give you an update in terms of where we are and what specifically has changed since being requested at this time. Can you find it? Okay, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I found it and it sort of took away my Zoom power when I went to slideshow, which is exactly why I'm asking you to let me do it this time. Thank you. Share first. Just getting to know the room. Thanks for your patience.
We're getting used to, again, to hybrid meetings, which is not in person or in Zoom. It's like creates a whole new set of fun challenges.
Just realized
that work?
Lydia is standing by, but you know, Lydia, I don't think this will take that long. So if we don't mind, we'll just proceed.
This one. Okay, you can go to the next slide.
Oh,
Yes. Okay. So this is located on the south coast of Bowen, sort of south of the golf course, accessed either off of Cowan Point or from Fairweather, but on the south coast there. And then stuff you go to next. So council, February 27th, gave first reading to a bylaw to permit this development. And then stuff you can actually go to the next one. Get the update. Okay. So then the APC saw this in March. And at that point, you continued to support 8 Arbutus Bay Road rezoning and requested that any amendment be referred back to the commission for comment. And so, Steph, if you'll just go forward. Just some other updates for the APC. So that the Islands Trust Conservancy declined the opportunity to have the proposed park. The environmental assessment came back and identified additional regulatory areas on the site. And so that the site plan was adjusted according to that. And then just neighbors update the applicant has held meetings with neighbors on both sides to address concerns. You want to go to the next one. And then most significantly for the bylaw, the Housing Advisory Committee met and they recommended that council amend the bylaw to include 2 additional lots in the rezoning in the sort of northern part of the rezoning. And they were specifically requesting that as a way to provide 2 smaller lots in the development and trying to find a way to permit more diverse housing as part of the development. And the APC also had recommended that the affordable housing provision be met through a cash in lieu contribution and then spent some time coming up with a formula essentially for how to calculate the cash in lieu contribution. So based on the new maximum floor area permitted in the bylaw, establishing a cash in lieu amount per square foot and then determining, okay, what would the contribution be for this bylaw? And then thinking of it in terms of how this could apply in other cases too, where they determine that it doesn't meet our affordable housing policy, which has targets of like, you know, affordable housing should be, and I don't remember the language, but it's like in the cove or walking distance or accessible to transit. And they looked at this site and they said, it's not in the cove, it's not close to transit, it's not close to major routes. Maybe this isn't the appropriate location, and worried about just the overall sort of managing of units that are scattered versus, you know, maybe the goal for municipality for some of these sites is the cash in lieu that we can use to support affordable housing in the cove. So that was their thinking. And then Steph, do you want to go to the next one? So this was the original, this is what the APC had seen the last time. So this 7-lot version with the park dedication in green. And so based on the Housing Advisory Committee recommendation, the applicant had their engineers show this 9-lot version stuff. If you want to go to the next slide. And this doesn't show the park as well, but essentially it's the park moves straight to the north of the site, and then you'll see partway down it has like a 8 and 9, so 2 smaller lots off of the main road, and then a shared septic field essentially is what's the orange highlighted below that. And Steph, if you go next. Yeah, it shows very nicely green on my screen, but it seems to be more watered out. We see the park essentially the north of the lot, and then lots 8 and 9 appearing partway down in lot 3. So there's 2 additional lots from those 2 smaller lots. So that doesn't go down again. Eddie. If you go to the next one. And this is just showing there's some changes to the overall site plan. So these photos on parking areas, so you see it there sort of next to the park. Some changes based on wildlife trees and riparian areas, so some tweaks to that part of the site plan, and then stuff.
Daniel, can you just go back to the previous one with the 7 lots? Because that wasn't in the materials you provided us before.
A couple stuff.
Or Steph, I just want to see exactly where did the 8 and 9 come out of?
So essentially that come out of lot 3. It can come out of lot 3. Okay. So lot 3 essentially becomes lot 3 and lots 8 and 9.
It doesn't diminish any of the parkland oversize.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Okay. And then sorry, that's the approach. And then so based on the Housing Advisory Committee recommendation, we as staff drafted an alternate version of bylaw 598. So amend what's in the zone as area 2, which is the lot 3, which has been confusing the whole way through, but we're stuck with it now. To permit 3 lots in that zone instead of 1, have a minimum lot size of 0.2 hectare, half an acre, maximum dwelling size of 200 square meters, so allow 2 additional smaller lots within the zone. And stuff, if you want to go next. So we presented that to council in June. Council essentially agreed with the Housing Advisory Committee recommendation. They rescinded first reading the bylaw. They amended the bylaw to include those 2 additional residential lots in area 2. They read the bylaw again. They gave it a first reading as amended. They referred it to the Islands Trust, the Advisory Planning Commission, Housing Advisory Committee, and the Parks and Trails Greenways, and required the applicant to update neighbors. So that's where we are. We've done the recommendation of the Parks and Trails Greenways Advisory Committee. We have the Housing Advisory Commission on Friday. The Islands Trust has said the amendment's not contrary or variance to the policy statement. So we're here. I think that's the end of my update.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Daniel?
Is the $7 per square foot in cash in lieu, is that a standard amount for, or how is that arrived?
Yeah, I mean, the committee looked essentially at a number of like lower mainland municipalities. And I think they found numbers between 5 and 10. And they essentially.
It's the first time we've done it, right? So this will may become the standard. I think we have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's in the middle between 5 and 10.
It's essentially what they came down with. So we found this seems to be roughly, and it's hard because every municipality, right, is like different land economics and like what's it worth.
That seems to make sense to me. During my time with the city of Vancouver, those numbers were driven by a lot more efficiency and development costs than we see here. It's expensive to construct on Bowen Island, so it makes sense that it's higher.
Okay, and I see Mr. Cumming is here. Do you have any comment that you would like to make or question?
No, not in particular. I think Daniel summarized things very well. This is sort of round 2 of round 1 for us. And we're hoping to accommodate what the Housing Committee wanted to achieve as well. So I think I don't have any additions at this point.
And I have before, Brenda, I saw you there, but I have a question before, and maybe this is not fair to ask you, Daniel, but in what way does the inclusion of those 2 extra lots help with affordable or diverse housing? Do you know what the housing committee's rationale
The
was?
housing committee's rationale is essentially like allowing smaller lots allows for differently like priced lots that smaller houses that will be less expensive. So they weren't trying to promote, but essentially they were looking at, okay, this development can provide for our affordable housing goals through the cash in lieu contribution, right, to support affordable housing. But then as well, we should be encouraging this development and every development to have diverse housing. So, you know, you could imagine some of the lots in this development are sort of waterfront lots on the South Coast development are probably quite premium. And they thought, okay, well, but within that development, there's a chance where we could just allow 2 more lots that would be smaller lots.
I've never heard the words waterfront and affordable in the same sentence before. Brenda, you had something?
The park that's going to be there and the access down to the beach, is that going to need to be managed by the municipality? And will this involve, will the municipality be responsible for building steps or whatever is required to actually give beach access, which I think was identified by the Greenways Committee as well, or whatever it's called these days?
Yeah, so I mean, as proposed, it's like the park would be dedicated to the municipality. And currently, as I brought the report back, it's like park staff don't see building access at this point as a priority. Don't see it requiring, see like it is a challenging access site. But so ultimately it would be responsibility of the municipality.
So it may never happen. It's never a priority for the muni.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Are there specific recommendations that anyone wants to make? Are we essentially just supportive of this revised proposal?
I am supportive.
Okay, I see a bunch of, okay. It's interesting, Martin?
Yeah. No, I'm good.
Why don't we just
Support?
Why don't we support the application? Whatever it's called.
There's the bylaw now, right? Is that right? What's there?
Yeah.
Got the right bylaw.
Just one question to you is, we live on Arbutus Bay Lane.
I know I've had this discussion with people before, and in our system, Arbutus Bay Lane runs east-west. And the run that runs down is labeled in our system as Arbutus Bay Road.
Okay, they've changed it several times.
I know, I think, yeah.
So are you?
I live on Arbutus Place, which runs off Arbutus Point Road.
I know, yeah, it's just,
Can we find another tree somewhere?
Arbutus or Eagle, I think those are our names. Right, names are either one or the other.
Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward as a motion.
Yeah.
Can I have somebody move it? Richard, seconder?
I think Martin.
Oh, Martin?
Yeah, I
Okay,
can
Martin.
second.
Martin, second. All in favor? Okay, recorded as unanimous. And Betty is here. Good.
Sorry.
I just want to, we revised the order of the agenda because the proponent was here on the second matter, so we did that first. So we're up to Cape Roger Curtis.
Okay.
Phew.
Moving right along.
Yeah, I like it. Well, that's good. It gives us a bit of time to deal with it, which is important.
Yeah.
Daniel, can you break the ice on this one?
Save the easy one.
That's I want to apologize to Lydia for putting you last, but they'll do you all night, so I had to get the other ones done first.
That is quite okay. Thank you for
Okay.
inviting me.
Yeah.
The bonus is that you get some extra time if it's needed. Daniel, did you want to start this or?
Sure. So let's give the overview. So Vancouver has proposed a regional park at Cape Roger Curtis with overnight camping. Where we've been. So we introduced the application to Council February 27th, Committee of the Whole. Council referred the application to a number of agencies, including the APC. So you saw it at the March 14th meeting. And then I just have put together this to show, okay, what's happened since then. So April 11th, Committee of the Whole received the referral responses, directed staff to draft amendment bylaws for the proposal. Those were presented at the April 24th regular council meeting. That's the first reading to bylaws 608 and 609, and requested additional information from the applicant before referring those bylaws out. Committee of the Whole of Council met June 14th. Council drafted a list of conditions for a potential rezoning, directed staff to bring those back to council. This is just the APC March 14th resolution. This isn't very readable, but I should have fit in one slide so we had it as a reference point. Council met July 10th. Council received the additional information and council referred the bylaws to committees, agencies, and public engagement. We're now in this referral period. We referred it to these committees, agencies. We've done a couple of the referrals, but largely they're still outstanding. And then just on the side is a snip of the image that we had for the February 27th meeting, and just to show the required council points that are still in this this application. Not to say that council can't, I always get nervous when I put together a list like that. People say that's all, or like that's what's happening. It's like, well, these are the required waypoints that exist. So council has given a bylaw first reading. Council would need to give second reading to bylaws, refer the bylaws to a public hearing. After the public hearing, council needs to grant third reading to bylaws, refer bylaw 608, the OCP amendment bylaw, to the Islands Trust for approval, and then they would need to give fourth reading and adopt the bylaws. So required sort of council approval steps along the way. Also at the July 10th meeting, council moved the resolution to request a meeting with Metro staff to explore a collaborative approach whereby BIM and Metro Vancouver staff and if available Squamish Nation staff meet together around one table to share aspirations, concerns, and perspectives on the extensive list of issues raised in the material during the July 10th meeting. Okay. So then the bylaws that have been granted first reading, bylaws 608 would amend the OCP, and it would do a number of things. So it would amend the OCP Schedule B, which is the present and future land use designation. So it would change the properties in this application to a regional park designation. And currently our OCP has a Crippen Regional Park designation, so it would change that designation to just be regional park. So it would apply to Crippen and to this proposed park. It would add an objective and policy to the OCP section on Cape Roger Curtis lands, which is a section in our OCP, emphasizing the permission for a regional park to have camping. So objective 69, support the creation of a regional park Cape Roger Curtis includes supervised overnight camping. Policy 155, a regional park Cape Roger Curtis may include a mixture of supervised overnight campsites, including group campsites, tent cabins, vehicular campsites, not including recreational vehicles or trailers, walk or biking campsites, trails, education programs, and tour guide signage, and accessory buildings or structures. And then it would add a policy to our section about tourist management, saying explicitly that there can be vehicular campsites in a regional park. So policy 190, campgrounds may be permitted in a regional park at Cape Roger Curtis and may be accessed by backpackers, bicyclists, or by motor vehicle, but not including recreational vehicles or trailers. They should be connected to a trail network designed to minimize impacts on the environment and should have site supervision. Site design targeting active transportation and transit to the park will be encouraged, while the vehicle use to the park should be disincentivized. And then bylaw 609 is the bylaw that would amend the land use bylaw. So you would place the lots purchased by Metro Vancouver into the passive park P1 zone. And then a portion of the land, so that's the area in gray with the dots around them, would be in a zone variation C. And that zone variation would permit the overnight camping use. So specifically, it would allow group tent camp, non-vehicle access campsite, tent cabin, vehicle access campsite, and staff accommodation. It would allow the total not more than a combined maximum of 100. And then it would say not more than 1/3 of the additional principal uses may be directly accessed or capable of being accessed by motor vehicles, group tent camps and tent cabins accepted. And then it would allow one staff accommodation use. Just in terms of additional studies, so on April 24th, we had advised we were still outstanding the transportation demand management plan and transportation impact plan and a visitor management plan. And the Metro staff identified the need for a park draft concept plan and a water study analysis. And so all of those studies are ones that were presented at the July 10th meeting of council. And this is just an image from that park concept plan showing the concept plan developed by Metro Vancouver based on their proposal. This was also at the July 10th meeting. We compiled the comments that have been provided to the municipality since, I believe since we received the application, so since January. We've received 495 letters from 333 unique submissions. And I will say we've received additional since this point, but we haven't sort of updated the list in this tracker. The ones we've categorized 115 letters supporting the proposed overnight camping, 223 opposed, and 133 not stated. And then we work to sort of identify themes in the letters to try to highlight, okay, what are the most common concerns that have come up. So probably not a surprise to members here, but ferry capacity, fire hazard, traffic, water, and access were the most common themes that we identified in those letters. And this is just the additional update. So the bylaws were referred to the Islands Trust, and the Islands Trust replied August 25th, stating that the proposed bylaws are contrary to or at variance with the Islands Trust policy statement. So we have a report going up to September 11th meeting, advising council of that, and essentially looking for direction to follow the protocol agreement, which calls for a meeting to be held between BIM Council and Islands Trust within 60 days. And I'll say too, that our protocol agreement lays out different paths. So essentially that is for bylaw 608, which is the OCP amendment bylaw, and then bylaw 609, the protocol agreement is for us to notify the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and then they provide advice on how to proceed with that bylaw. So they are two separate processes that are laid out for us. And so I'll just say for this piece, it's like sort of changing information. And in response to this, we have deferred a number of our advisory committees that were scheduled to discuss this application, sort of aware of, okay, well, this is a meeting that has to take place, may result in changes to the bylaws, may result in changes to the process, or, it's up to sort of council and to determine how they want to address that. But we did want, knowing that we hadn't come to the APC since March with this application, and a lot has taken place, a lot has changed, some of which may be up in the air for council to proceed, but some may not. So we wanted to come to present to the APC, update you on what's happening, and take any input at this point, knowing that there may be changes again, like you make it. I don't know, I can't say, but what would happen, but would most likely be updating the APC after that meeting, after sort of we have new direction. And then the recommendations is what's in the agenda about what recommendations you want to provide at this point.
Thank you, Daniel. Before I ask Lydia if she wants to say something, does anyone have any specific questions for Daniel now?
So just, sorry, one quick thing. So I, just as before, need to exclude myself from this agenda item due to a conflict.
Okay, we understand. Sorry to see you go.
I should remain until after this agenda item, is that right?
I'm not sure but that's probably your call. I think we would still have quorum without you. And is there anything?
There's nothing else
on the
after.
agenda?
You could watch on YouTube.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Martin.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, Brenda.
I was actually waving goodbye to.
I know you have questions.
Perhaps I'll just wait until Metro Vancouver's representative.
Lydia, do you have anything to?
No, thanks for the presentation, Daniel, and thanks for putting the referral before the committee tonight. We checked in with staff on this and we decided not to present. So I'm really here to help out with any questions. Just in terms of one quick update from Metro Vancouver, as part of the municipality's referral, we did undertake phase 2 public engagement. that spanned from, I think, July 29th to August 16th. And that is, we're still kind of basically analysing the feedback from that engagement. So I don't think the manager of planning's update included that. So I just want to state that as well. But thank you. I'm here to answer any questions.
Well, thank you for attending. So questions for Daniel, or if none, well, I have one, if no one else does. I thought that list of concerns was fascinating. It was kind of, it struck me as being a summary of
The conditions.
island concerns, ferry number one, et cetera. But I was puzzled to see traffic and access as two different items, and I wonder if you could explain that.
Yeah, and I probably have to go into individual ones, but yeah, they're clearly linked. But access would be, in particular, I think it's people in Whitesale or elsewhere, but concerned about secondary access or desire for secondary access. Yeah.
And from a fire management point of view as well, there is no other means of egress from those lands other than Whitetail Drive.
There was a fire yesterday?
There was.
Did they use Thompson Road to get out?
Did they use Thompson Road together?
Did they go up?
No, they used white sails and they used the water from Tunstall Bay, and it's from the point of view of those supporting this initiative, it's incredible bad luck that it happened now, but in a way it's good that it happened now because it sort of highlighted the issues. So, if there are no specific questions, what I thought would be interesting is if we went back to that list of considerations and concerns that we prepared at the last meeting and asked Daniel for an update of how things stand. Do you have that where it starts off with consider the consequences of rezoning or not rezoning?
Let me try to put it.
It's in the minutes anyway from the last meeting, if no one else. Yeah, there they are. Good. So the first one, has there been any discussion about rezoning? Your proposal does seek a rezoning.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the answer to that.
I mean, I think the answer is Metro Vancouver's proposal involves elements that need rezoning that they, are like a part of their application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but go ahead.
Yeah.
No, well, I think we're probably going to both say the same thing. But what if they don't get the rezoning? I mean, that's part of, I think, why this recommendation was included for council's consideration, to consider what the consequences would be of not granting the rezoning on the proposed park. So is that going to be addressed and by whom?
Yeah, to some extent.
Can I just follow up with the obvious of why grant the rezoning until all of the points that are concerns to the community are properly addressed to everyone's satisfaction?
I think that's the way the process works. There won't be a rezoning until, but I have a sort of a subsidiary question here. If none of these amendments take place, can Metro Van still build a park of sorts? Can they still preserve the land in some fashion?
Yes.
Or could they sell it all again?
Yes.
Well, they could do that too, yeah.
So perhaps I can take that question.
Okay.
That would really be for the Metro Van. I mean, the land use component of that, of course, sits with the municipality, but in deciding, if there's any disposal or retention of the land just as a day use park, that decision would really sit with the Metro Vancouver board.
Oh, I appreciate that, Lydia. I was just trying to sort of orient that the issue we raised is why the consequences of the rezoning. So one of the consequences of not rezoning is that some kind of park, I'll just leave it open like that, could be built, but of course the owner gets to decide what to do within the context of the current land use bylaw. That makes sense? Am I making sense to you there? I'm not suggesting you do it. I just am trying to
No,
get
no,
the
no,
background.
that does make sense. And yeah, thank you for clarifying.
Yep, okay. Information regarding the requirement for Metro Vancouver. Oh, building permits. Now, you say something in your materials, Daniel, about works yard. Would we require a building permit?
But yes, like buildings would require building permits.
Any building?
Any building, some structures we require building permits for.
Okay.
There's no sort of exemption, like, you know, the municipality needs to get building permits, Metro Vancouver needs to get.
Okay, and presumably that process would be launched after any rezoning if it did take place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or at least, you know, it's we've received no applications for building permits. And I don't think it's in Metro Vancouver's plan until.
Okay.
Yeah, after.
Does someone else want to read the next one? I feel like I'm saying too much.
Consider an OCP update prior to consideration of this rezoning application. Like that would be an option for council, would be to say, you know, we approve the OCP update, which permits overnight camping in Cape Bradford Curtis, but do the rezoning either after or, you know, first, like you could theoretically say, okay, and we'll rezone for 20 now and more in the future.
I think the intent of that was that the OCP update be done before approval of the current. Okay.
Yeah.
So council could.
Council could do that. Like that would be an option for council.
Okay.
Can I delay everything?
Yes, it would considerably, I would think.
Yeah, I think that's why
OCP.
lots of people want it.
Yes, well, okay.
Well, I think one of the reasons why people might want it is just to, take the pulse of the island and see how they feel about something that would be such a major impact potentially on the island. And it has been some time since we had our last OCP update.
Which was a very, in my opinion, narrowly developed OCP. But
we sure had a lot of public input.
There's a lot of time and effort going into it,
yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any comment on the Islands Trust concern about this proposal being in contravention of the OCP?
I have no comment other than to say that, you know, obviously as a result of that response, like council will meet with the Islands Trust Executive Committee.
Well, you have to have the meeting, right? That's in the protocol.
Yeah, the meeting has to happen.
Well, let me ask the same question this way. Did the Islands Trust people identify anything that the Bowen Council and committees had not already raised as concerns? And did you have an answer to that?
Yeah, I did. I actually printed out a whole transcript of it, and I wrote a lot of notes on it, but in truth, most of those issues have been raised. It's just, I think it gets to the next bullet, considering increasing the thorough consultation with the community. We're hearing it all, but not in some kind of coherent consultation between Muni and the citizens. All the engagements have been with Metro Vancouver.
Yeah, and that raises another issue. We don't have to stick to the agenda I outlined or the list as these issues come up. So poor old council. On the one hand, they have the proponent seeking something, and on the other hand, they have the Islands Trust saying, having concerns about it. So saying they're caught in the middle is not quite right, because they're the main player. But essentially, is there a way for the Islands Trust and Metro Van to communicate directly?
I mean, the protocol agreement is that BIM meets with the Islands Trust Executive Committee.
That's what I thought.
That's
As we used to say in contract law, there's no privity between Islands Trust and Metro Van.
Yeah.
It just seems like a very time-consuming and complicated procedure. But anyway, this meeting with the Islands Trust Executive and the Board and Council, it's a public meeting, isn't it?
Yes, I would assume so. I don't know necessarily that it would have like public comment periods, but I would assume it's a public meeting. It would be actually for, like for our council to meet, it would be a public meeting. And, I don't have direction from council as to schedule that meeting. I would assume it's a Zoom meeting, given like location of executive committee and BIM. It's probably simpler that way, but.
Okay, and the referral to the executive committee was, that's mandated anyway under the protocol, right, after first reading. And you had a comment in your material that normally the executive committee responds by saying may contravene Islands Trust policy, but they didn't say that, they said it would?
Yeah.
Okay.
So so essentially like what happens is bylaws get referred. No CP amendment bylaw gets referred after first reading for initial referral. And the protocol agreement letters they would say it doesn't contravene or it may contravene. And if it's may contravene, it goes into this meeting and there's steps. And then in any case, following a public hearing, following third reading, the bylaw is sent to the Islands Trust for approval, and they can approve it, they can return it, or they can reject it. And then it says if they reject it, they have to provide reasons and like changes that are required in the bylaw.
Okay.
Sort of the distinction. Sorry, like I'm saying it is, we're saying, well, is that a rejection? In which case, could you provide reasons and what would be required to change in the bylaw to meet? But most likely, it's like the Islands Trust would view that as their initial return. They use different language than the protocol, but that's the intent of it. And so it just leads to the meeting where we would discuss it. And then after that, it's like the protocol agreement lays out, council can at that point proceed with the bylaw to public hearing.
Oh, I know, I actually had.
They can amend it and send it to public hearing, or they can amend it and send it back to the Islands Trust.
Although I've been on this committee a few years, I had never had occasion to review the protocol.
Yeah.
So I read it finally. And it is interesting. I mean, Kirsty will know, the Islands Trust, we never heard from them except for them to say they don't want to do something. They don't want to pay for something. They don't want to look after this piece of land that we want to preserve.
And they want more money.
And they want more money. So this actual engagement, I think, is really interesting and important. Mm-hmm. But it does say in the protocol agreement that at the end of the day, neither the Islands Trust nor the municipality can block each other's legislative initiatives.
Yeah, so like the protocol agreement, there is a flow chart that would exist for one municipality to proceed with a bylaw despite Islands Trust non-support or non-approval. Like the protocol agreement for flow chart for OCP bylaws has 2 pages. And we would always joke in staff meetings between BIM and Islands Trust that we've never had to go to page 2 of the agreement, because page 2 is like all about the alternative approval process.
A lawyer went to page 2.
Yeah. Nothing in this agreement shall be construed so as to fetter the legislative discretion of either of the parties or oblige either of the parties to adopt or prevent either of the parties from adopting any bylaw or resolution.
So essentially, like step 1 is,
my goodness, that would be an uncomfortable situation to say the least.
That's what I tend to look at when I go, it would be quite a process.
Okay.
Council would have to be very determined, I think, that they are proceeding with something the Islands Trust doesn't approve of.
Okay, it surprised me to find that. And then it looks like it ends up, if there is a fight, it looks like it ends up in the hands of the responsible minister. Mm-hmm. More politics. Okay. I don't know if can we craft some recommendations? One obvious one is that this meeting be public and publicized so that people can attend it, even if they can't make representations. I mean, this is.
Yeah, I think that's very important.
Council is committed to transparency. This is
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think like, yeah, I mean, I would assume that it would be a public meet, like would be required to be a public meeting under the community charter.
Well, why don't we recommend that if there's no specific protocol or requirement, that council request that the meeting be public?
Be public and that
And
the public
publicized.
has the ability to ask questions, or in public and that, because that's a very different thing than public and that they can hear where everyone's coming from, I think is appropriate.
Well, I appreciate that, but my goodness, that would let the worms out of the can, that's for sure.
Well, I know, that's why I think we should probably be specific, because I think that we want everybody to be able to listen in.
Okay. At this point, it's just preliminary in the sense that you're dealing with the executive. The ultimate approval of the bylaw goes to the entire Islands Trust Council. So I think at this point, it would be okay from my point of view that it be a public meeting, but and publicized, but that there not be an opportunity for public comment. Clearly, the public is commenting, they're sending letters that's referred to, and yeah, so I'm not sure what it would necessarily add. Do people have different thinking on that?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so, sorry, that it be public and publicized?
Both, yes.
But not, what? The other issue Kirsty's raising is the opportunity of the public to make comment. Yeah.
Which
I don't think it's up to us to dictate to the Muni and Islands Trust on that point.
Yeah.
I think, they've got the discretion to decide if they want. I suspect they won't want to hear comments from the public because they recognize this is obviously a very hot button issue for the island, and they'll want to,
Yeah, and I mean, I think what we want to do is we want to see some progress. We want to see some discussion and find out.
Yeah, but I think we just need to be clear that we're not asking for them to do comments, so then they feel.
Yeah, no, I think that the meeting of the executive committee and the it's the executive committee of the Islands Trust and the Bowen Island municipality be public, and the time and place of the meeting be publicized. And if we could be specific, but we are not requesting.
I said for public viewing.
Yeah, but I think
Okay.
public viewing is,
And leave it at that.
yeah.
I mean, it's always open to the participants in the meeting to request public comment.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's number one. So far, so good.
One down, 626. This is why.
Well, I didn't forget through all of those, but, I have a very specific question. One of the comments in the Islands Trust, their little chart, was something about 460 people coming over on the ferry on Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
Where did that come from?
that would be the number of campers.
No, but is there a report that gives that number or, yeah, Brad?
Well, I think that number is determined by making some assumptions about the number of campers that would occupy.
100 campsites, we know.
Yes, but some of them are group campsites. I think
So
they've
that's why you
estimated
get more than, you get 4.6, okay.
people per vehicle or something along those lines. But, I think that there are a bunch of assumptions that are being made that, when you look at, in particular, the Bunt report, round 2, that are still way off the mark, and I'll just point out a couple of them. And, this might be good for the Metro Vancouver representative to hear, but so this report was prepared after doing sampling on 2 days in May 19th and 20th, a Friday and Saturday. The Bowen Ferry was canceled at 3:30 on Saturday.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
So there was no ferry travel after 3:30 in the afternoon. So I would have said, okay, stop your sampling, pick a different weekend.
Yeah.
That's not what happened. So that's the first thing that I find a little bit, unreliable in terms of sort of typical data of our transportation usage on the island. Another is the assumption that 20% of the visitors to the campsites will walk to CRC. Well, that's a long way to walk. I don't think I know anybody who's done that walk. Maybe I do, but it's certainly not going to be 20% of the visitors. And then also the comment that Bowen's roads are cyclist friendly. It was not written by anybody that's ever cycled on our roads, particularly Adams Road, you know, which is a bit of a speedway and has almost no shoulder. So, you know, I have pause when I see things like that in a report that's being presented as part of the analysis of how the campgrounds are going to be affecting our transportation needs on Bowen Island.
And Betty, are you on the Transportation Advisory Committee? And have they had a look at this as well?
We haven't met since this second version came out, but I would concur with what Brenda says. There's so many assumptions and inaccuracies and sort of transpositions of like might be appropriate in an urban situation that makes no sense in our context, that it just makes it a useless document. And I would say in contrast, the Tunstall neighbors sitting out there for 4 hours and counting cards was probably a much more concrete example of what you could expect.
Yeah, and I noted as well in the Islands Trust Executive Committee comments that they've been contacted by BC Ferries, that BC Ferries had reached out. And I haven't seen anything, maybe I've just missed it, in the Metrovan materials suggesting that they've had any meaningful discussions with BC Ferries about the impact that the campground would have on ferry traffic. So that seems to be missing so far, and it was actually part of our recommendations too, which is another reason why I'm bringing that up.
And it's not just car traffic, it's foot passenger traffic,
Yes,
right?
absolutely, because that can cause overloads too.
Yeah.
So Lydia, I hope you're taking notes and you will take those comments back to the powers that be.
And I can respond to a couple of them if that's helpful, or I can just,
Yeah, I think so. I think we'd like to hear from you. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, no, thank you, and thanks for providing those comments. And I will try and address some of them, but perhaps not all of them. So we have heard not just from this committee, but you know, through our engagement, the comments on mode split. I think what we were trying to do, we actually took the mode split from Crippen, and one of the reasons we did that, we just wanted to be transparent about where that data was coming from. But I think if you actually combine, it's kind of at Crippen we have 4% bike and about 21% walk, but you know, I kind of appreciate that Crippen Regional Park kind of sits within a more populated area, but we're actually looking at that as, you know, the total active mode. So I guess the active transportation split for the whole park, you know, we're making an assumption it would be around about 25%. So it's combining that bike and walk. And given that we're looking at having a significant number of walk-in and bike-in campsites, we felt that was reflective. One thing I will add, we will be pursuing a third-party review of the report. So that is something that we'd like to do to make sure that the community has good confidence in the data that is presented in the Bunt report. So that's something that, you know, we've been we have offered to the municipality and something we'd like to proceed with. One, just to address some of the comments on the traffic counts. You know, I acknowledge that we did those survey counts basically on a day when there was a ferry outage. When our consultant looked at that data sort of quite carefully, I think the ferry timing, it happened just outside what we anticipated, what their previous days had shown to be the peak, basically. So I can't remember off the top of my head, but the ferry outage kind of happened, I think, around about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and the peak was actually just before that. So when they thought about the number of vehicles actually on the island already, they felt it was reflective. But that said, we have proceeded with summer traffic counts. So we've been getting data through June, July, August, and there's one more round of data that we're going to be getting in September. And updating that report. So hopefully that kind of addresses some of the concerns in terms of the timing of the traffic counts. All the modelling in that report kind of looks to the peak hours specifically. So that I hope addresses that point, that comment that was raised.
Well, thank you for that response. Daniel, why did we get preferred as having a meeting before the executive? And I'm just a little puzzled because clearly we're going to have another meeting after the council and the executive.
Yeah, I think that's understandable. Partly, I think it was just the role the APC plays in reviewing land use and LCP bylaws, and that we hadn't been here since March. We had it already scheduled when the meeting set up and everyone commented. We felt like, okay, we're not going to defer this one. We'd like to hear comments.
Okay.
At this point from the commission.
Well, we had the other two things to deal with anyway, so that made good progress there. I will tell you one thing that concerns me about the Islands Trust response, and the reason I picked up on that 460, a lot of these responses are qualitative and opinion rather than actual quantitative issues or clarity. So, for example, saying that, where is it? A campground that allows 460 campers changes the character of the community. Well, yes. So, there's a lot of these things, and where we really need to find out exactly what Islands Trust is telling us. What are their concerns? Because it may well be that we will learn something that will be useful to us as well. So this kind of general comment is not very helpful.
I think they did qualify that. I mean, it is part of their protection that they protect the social context as well as the ecological one. And they made the point quite strongly that what's missing is the qualitative data, that we're getting these, hefty reports that don't actually give us useful information. Well, BC Ferries can give us a one-liner that this summer was a disaster. And so I think one of our recommendations should be that we use this 2023 as an opportunity to document all of the qualitative and quantitative data we can, including from BC Ferries, and that Metro should begin their adaptive management right now and try to address some of that gong show that happened in 2024.
Yeah, the problem is BC Ferries is an entity unto itself.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
We can't count on them, so we need a different option would be the logical.
Where I was heading, because I thought social impact, very specific concerns from long-term residents about many aspects not sufficiently addressed. Okay, what aspects? My goodness, I'm not even sure what a long-term resident is. I joke that I'm no longer a newbie, but I'm surely not long-term, et cetera, et cetera. I would make a recommendation that council, how can I put it? You can't require the Islands Trust executive to do it, but request the Islands Trust give specifics about what these things mean.
I would support that because otherwise it's just a bunch of opinions from Islanders.
And they may, well, no, it's interesting. They clearly read all the letters. They got a lot of letters.
But it's their opinions about somebody else's opinions.
Yeah. Well, that's right. And that's, how can I put it? Let's just say there's been no shortage of opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But what we need is specific. So if somebody can come along and say to me, this many cars will travel along wide sails every day. This many cars will have to park. That's why I was surprised to see traffic and access down low on the concerns. and maybe it's because I think the ferry situation is hopeless. I don't think we're going to get BC ferries to.
Well, we have to offer up proper marshalling before they'll listen to us.
Makes sense too. So I think in terms of the recommendations that we can give today, and I think we'll have an opportunity to, I think we have the one about the meeting being public. I think the other one that I hear people talk about is that the municipality, municipality, I think we recommend they seek more and updated reports taking into account the 2023, what happened this summer. And we can connect that with saying to Islands Crest, what do you need to be comfortable or to make a decision, positive or negative?
I also think that we look at this in a vacuum, and we're saying many people are saying we don't want a park, we don't want camping. Otherwise, we would have had whatever it is, 30 lots.
There are a lot of people saying they don't want a park.
No, I hear people saying.
They want a park that doesn't allow
Sorry,
Vancouver people in. That's what a whole bunch of people say. They don't want people from off island coming and enjoying a park. That's what the public sentiment that I've heard by a huge.
I've heard camping. It's the
Well,
camping.
I've heard a huge number of people that don't want people.
I just want to get to the bottom of this because if push came to shove and people had to decide a park with camping or no park at all.
No park at all and 20 or 30 houses. And
Where
those.
would people go? I don't have that.
Yeah, because that's the thing that's, what is it, 30 legal lots? 20 legal?
24.
24 legal lots. So that'd be 24 big houses on 10-acre lots with how many people going back and forth? So we're looking at it in a vacuum and.
But that's not the only or.
Yes.
What is the
There could be other ors.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
What are the other ors?
I'm not prepared to put them out there, but I think there are other orgs. I mean, Metro can decide what they want to do with that land. It's their land.
Yep, okay. Brenda, you had something to?
Only to say that I know we all have different friends on the island, and so you may very well be hearing no park at all. I have
a park, but make it unfriendly to the off-islanders.
Okay, well,
I don't hear that.
I haven't heard that, but I guess my main point was that I think I can't really see Metro Vancouver selling these, 10-acre lots off to be developed into big homes. I do think that the commitment, the reason they got the money to invest in this was because of their commitment to having a park in this area. And I know their strong preference is for having campgrounds, and they're not willing to discuss not having campgrounds because, they haven't exhausted their quest to get them. But, I guess maybe I'm naive, but I still hold out some faith that if they don't get the campgrounds, that they'll still want to do something there.
Well, we're at the beginning. I thought we were we were in the middle, but I think we're still at the beginning of what's going to be a very long process.
Yeah.
And there will be, and then unfortunately from Metro Vancouver's point of view, their proposal engages a lot of island-wide serious issues that we have to face anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The growth, the ferry, the failing infrastructure. I mean, they're not responsible for our failing infrastructure, for God's sake. And so we have to deal with all this stuff. Betty.
I totally agree with you. And the word that I've had in my mind as I've been reading through this stuff is the spillover effect, which is what we've seen this summer. We have all those issues. And that 11 million people they advertised the park to created an onslaught that created a spillover. And I think that needs to become part of the conversation because things like the fire yesterday, the protocols between the Metro crews and our crews and who's available to respond and the impact of the campers that are told, no, we're not open for camping, so they go next door and camp.
Actually,
We need some help
I've
with
read
that.
some Metro Vancouver stuff about fire suppression and so on, and I don't mind I think what they're saying is good, you know.
Except it's 4
They're
hours.
responsible for watershed protection around Vancouver, and so if a fire comes, they can call in the helicopters and the bombers, the water bombers, which is something our municipality can't. So that's you know, that's nice to read that.
But how do the two work together is, you know, that part I think needs to be added to the conversation.
This is the, what is it called? The combined management agreement or the?
Well, they're saying they're not gonna have one, but I think they're gonna need one.
Okay.
Respectfully, we began by going through those,
Yeah, I'm not sure that we need to go much
Okay,
further on those. I think how can I put it? What we want to do is help council deal with this matter. We don't make the decision for them, although we'd love to. But we need to provide them with assistance in dealing with this. And I think we can do that. The two recommendations I have made note of so far are the public meeting and the request for further and updated reports. And specifically in the context of what would Islands Trust like. We don't have to do it just because they ask us, but it would be nice
know what they want.
know what they want.
Can I get some language around the reports?
So that
I think was talking about qualitative data, was that?
well, that's just my reaction to the Islands Trust response that they say, you know,
Quantitative.
there's social impact. Well, yeah, I mean, of course there is.
It's hard to quantify that, but perhaps they could cite examples in
Well,
other islands. where
Here's the dilemma, you know, it's almost, it's a huge social issue. Do you do something that is an advantage for 3 million people that is an incredible disadvantage for 4,000? You know, how do you balance those interests?
Well,
That's if you see the island as 4,000 people and not as in the trust of the province for the benefit of all British Columbians to be preserved and protected. So it's a little more complicated than just NIMBY.
Yeah, it's just that we're hearing from the 4,000 people. And rightly so. I mean, it's their island, our island. But this is the balance that has to be sought, and you can throw that into the equation too, because that notion of preserve and protect the land is also to the benefit of the 3 million.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I really worry that we're gonna end up back in the same situation that when we told the developers of Roger Curtis that they couldn't have the extra houses, they just went and did the 60 lots, and and that was all on us.
Yeah, no, I remember that's my introduction to the island was the National Park referendum.
Mine too.
Mine was the golf course.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? These civil wars are a lot of fun.
Can I put one more item in here? This is to do with the council's list.
Yes.
I think that they've missed water in there, and I want to say a couple things about it because I manage a community water system, and we got a message from the province recently saying we're at stage 5 and licensed users need to cut their water usage by 50%, and unlicensed users may not use any water. And a campground requires a license. And I haven't seen it anywhere in any of the documents. And it's difficult to get them. It takes a long time. There's a lot of bureaucracy. So I just wanted to sort of signal that one they should be looking at it if they want a campground that's got water.
Wouldn't they have bought that with the lot?
No, that's single wells, and single wells are okay for a single household.
So it's not.
The campgrounds are.
Volume oriented?
Pardon?
It's not volume oriented of how much?
No, they have to have a water sustainability.
Another example of the kind of problem I have with their fuzzy language when they say water is an issue. Well, yes, it's an issue. But if you're in a lot of jurisdictions, if you're trying to develop a site, they'll say water, you have to guarantee, say, I don't know, typically 200 gallons.
Yeah, you have to say what you need, right.
So that kind of study is required. Yeah, I've heard that there's also mineral content in some of the water.
Yeah, but it's not, I'm not talking about the water study. I'm just alerting them they have to apply for a license if they want to do that.
Did you hear that, Lydia?
And
Yeah,
then
no, I'm well aware of the Water
Okay.
Sustainability Act and the licensing requirements, and we
Okay.
hold a lot of water licenses throughout our system, but thank you.
Okay.
And then the other one is the hydrology issue, the ecological issue of whether drawing down water is endangering the dry coastal forests that we're trying to protect. And it seems to me that it would be responsible to choose one of those wells and make it a monitoring well so that you're really looking at what the water's doing over 5 years up and down with the seasons.
Okay. So I'm suggesting a third recommendation that the municipality request specific details whenever possible of generalized concerns expressed by Highlands Crest, such as water is an issue.
Okay.
And I'm on the board of my own. I tell people I'm a water boarder. My local area, yeah, I see Steph all the time there too. And okay, and yeah, actually, it's interesting. I got taken around the island on a boat recently, and it was fascinatingly disclosed something to me that I hadn't realized before. We have parts of the island where there's incredible density. Like there are, I think they probably started off as summer cabins and cottages that are like this far apart from each other, right? You could touch both of them. And then we have other areas that I think there's a mansion and then a whole bunch of land that's controlled by the owner of the mansion to preserve their privacy. And then we have water lots and other things. But we really don't have a lot of waterfront that is unaffected at this point, that is natural. I was surprised at how little in the end. But the ones that I had predicted, of course, like Apodaca, but even the northwest corner of the island, there are water lots. There's way more cabins and houses there than I thought.
Water access only.
Water access only. So, but the point I'm making, I guess, is I'm sure Lydia appreciates this already. That's why that land in Cape Roger Curtis is so important to the island, because there's not much of it. We have this impression that we live in a forest anyway. So
I think Brenda had her hand up.
have you managed to put something down there?
I think Brenda, did you have your hand up?
Well, I guess, I'm not sure if our intention is to go through all of our recommendations or not.
We're sort of running out of time, but is there one that you want to address in particular?
I guess, I think they're all important. And in particular, I think that, the comment that we made, or that one of us, or I'm not sure how many of us made about consider establishing a joint management agreement between BIM and Metro Vancouver. And, I've heard people say, well, Metro Vancouver doesn't share management. But I also query whether, our situation isn't a bit unique in terms of this particular park being smack dab in the middle of and surrounded by a municipality. And in particular, coordinating things like emergency services, to me, makes a lot of sense. And I think that the only way we can really do that is through co-management. And, the fire that just happened yesterday, is a good example of that. The fire broke out on a lot that is not part of this park proposal. But if it had spread, that would be a joint effort to put that out.
If it was human caused, it almost something was by a trespasser.
Yeah.
I don't know how we deal with that.
There wasn't a lot of lightning strikes yesterday.
No.
No, and it was interesting where it was. It was essentially drift logs on rock. So where people hang out, where they throw their cigarette butts or perhaps even have beach fires.
Or where someone had been camping the previous night, thought they had put their fire out, and the wind.
All of the fires around me have always, in over history, have all been caused by kayak campers.
Yeah, but there was the one on Apodaca Park as well, so.
Yeah.
Within
Okay,
2 weeks of that campsite opening.
I wonder, would it be too arrogant for us to recommend that the municipality continue to work on the matters that we raised for the consideration in March 24th?
No,
No, I think that's
that'd be
good.
good.
Okay,
I'm a little,
that addressing Betty.
Yeah.
Okay,
And not entertain
well, I
an
think that,
amendment to the OCP or land use bylaws until.
yeah. Well, this is the problem we have, Richard, is that, as I say, we're not the legislative body, but I think that the message has been communicated pretty clearly that this needs to be done.
what was the date of that? Was it May? May, so March 14th, yes.
I frankly think this is gonna last until the next council election, and that may be the way it's
Is property too
ultimately
aggressive?
dealt with, right?
No, I think just dealt with.
I think it'll be dealt with before the election.
We're doing wording, we're on the wording part now. The wording of the recommendation. Sorry.
Too much gossip.
Yeah.
Okay, so recommendations. The recommendations made to the AP continue to be addressed.
You want to say specifically or?
No, just addressed.
Okay.
Executive meeting will be available for public viewing. Yeah, okay.
That's it. It falls off, the wheels fall off after that.
Okay, and then that, now, the intent there, I think, the intent there was to scope out what would make the Islands Trust, what the Islands Trust would be. Because I'm not sure the Islands Trust can request a report of Metro Van, but I think the council can. Islands Trust doesn't have legislative, I don't know about clarity, I don't think that's a, why don't we say reassurance or something like that? Actually, even that's not right.
No, isn't it in order to address the concerns expressed by the
Okay,
Islands
why don't we
Trust?
say that? Although I'd like the Islands Trust to address their concerns a little more, or do we?
And I think it was the Islands Trust
Specific details
executive.
regarding general requests from Islands Trust, for example, just quote, water is an issue.
Sorry, where are we finished with this bullet?
No,
Yes, I think so. Oh,
Or we
no,
can just put, for example,
For
water is an
example,
issue.
For example, water is an issue. Will this be?
Well, I think that-
the
I think we
Islands
want to
Trust
say,
said
for
it's an
example,
issue.
details of why, quote,
Water is-
water is an issue.
Yeah,
An issue island-wide, actually. It's funny.
Or specifics or?
For example, provide details of why water is an issue.
why they say water is, yeah. We know why water is an issue.
Okay.
does that read correctly though, that updated reports, like who's providing reports?
Oh,
Don't we?
no, that's, those are two separate points, actually.
Yeah, because we're just requesting that Islands Trust provide some clarity respecting their comments, are we not?
Yeah, so those are two separate things, Steph. Can you put a period after updated reports provide in order to address the concerns expressed by the Islands Trust? And then the next bullet point is executive committee. And then the next bullet point, that Islands Trust be requested. Oh, okay, you've got it in the next one anyway. The BIM requests specific details regarding general comments from Islands Trust, for example. Water is an issue. And then you can delete the one above that.
Okay. Sorry, I got a little.
I think what's happened historically is we've been reassured by how wet the place is. And so we haven't developed the infrastructure that's required to protect the water. And then I think the rest is You don't need the rest after that.
I just thought there was, Betty had something about qualitative in respect to the community.
Well,
character,
specific
social
details
data.
is, we'll leave it at that. I think, anyway.
Yeah,
But I mean, the answer to water is an issue. They may say, well, a park needs 100 gallons per camper per day, and that's not produced. I mean, that's the sort of, I know my water district, 200 is the number per day.
per house or per
house.
person?
Per user, per house, yeah.
Yeah, per house, yeah.
And it sounds like a lot, but by the time you've done the laundry and the washing and the showers and. Okay, so what have we got here?
Sorry. That the advisory planning, or do you want to add any more bullets to this?
I feel like we just deleted my whole thought that in some way we should be reviewing what just happened during this tourism season and
Right.
taking some
Thank you. The updated reports.
information from it.
And then, but after updated, no, I think where that belongs is the updated, and the updated is
Okay.
take into account 2020. And
Because
after
now we
updated,
see-
say brackets, taking into account,
Everybody, which take into.
no.
What?
You know what? Why don't we do it as a separate?
I
bullet?
think
Yeah.
it's a separate.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And then maybe the next one.
It's important enough for this separate bullet.
Okay, so.
Okay, then the next one would be, after the one that talks about the island strategy, why don't you say that further updated reports, taking into account, the events of the 2020 summer, but maybe we should say the difficulties, be honest about that.
Challenges?
The challenges, perfect. Oh, that's why you got that job. The challenges of the 2023 summer
And
season.
you could say including ferry service and spillover impact to
Disruptions?
park adjacent properties.
And active BC tourism promotion. of low
You know what? I would
residents.
just end it at summer season
Yeah.
and leave it at that because then what will happen is you'll just get something about the ferry service disruptions.
Okay, don't
And
say
there's way
ferries.
more to
Everybody
it.
knows there were ferries.
Yeah, so period after season. And I wouldn't be surprised if Metro Van found that there was stress on the current parks here,
There was a,
stress on the current parks.
Well, there was certainly stress on the current non-bathrooms, because the only bathrooms on the island are the ferry and the park.
Right. So updated, and there's one at the Grafton Gardens, but we don't, so there's a typo in updated. Okay.
And while people are coming to the island because of.
Well, you know,
Rose Park.
I was on the ferry on a Friday afternoon and there were lots of extra people, but they all had suitcases. And they're not campers.
oh boy, but I saw
We
the
never really
opposite.
addressed the B&B
Yeah.
issue.
No.
No, we all saw campers though this summer. I mean, you're in the.
Oh, I know, I'm not saying that there are no
store
campers, but I was surprised.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's,
I mean, I see
the 80 legal and the 160 non-registered.
Daniel has the statistics there, but anyway.
You'll always find people at the top of Mount Gardner in the summer camping.
Well, yeah, there's the camping, but there are, there are a lot of B&Bs.
There are.
And there's, why not?
Well,
People have to
because
pay their taxes.
we live in a lovely place, so people want to come here.
Yeah. And on Monday of the long weekend, if you wanted to find milk at the grocery store, there wasn't any. It was sold out of.
Yeah.
No, really?
Shelves were bare.
Yeah, the chocolate was all gone up in Artisan Square.
Wow, there's a crisis.
The vending machines on BC ferries
No, I
are
have-
still
I have-
empty.
I have heard from people associated with our food stores that they feel a little bit down the list. They're competing with Safeway and Save On and so on for supplies. And
Right.
anyway, that's irrelevant. Okay, what have we got, Steph?
Okay. Are there any more bullets suggested? No.
I think this is good at 7 o'clock.
That the Advisory Planning Commission provide the following recommendations regarding proposed campground use in Regional Park on Cape Roger Curtis, bylaws number 608 and 609. That the recommendations made by the APC on March 14th, 2023 continue to be addressed. That the Executive Committee of the Islands Trust meeting with Bowen Island Municipal Council, if it is not legislatively required, be available for public viewing and be widely publicized. That updated reports be provided in order to address the concerns expressed by the Islands Trust Executive Committee. That further updated reports taking into account the challenges of the 2023 summer season on Bowen Island be provided.
Right.
That Bowen Island Municipality requests specific details regarding general comments from the Islands Trust Executive Committee. For example, water is an issue.
Oh, and the last one is, it's an artifact. Okay. I think we might be there in our advice to council. It's easy for us to advise them.
You're getting
You still there, Alex?
Many quarters.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Taking all this in.
Yeah, I just quickly, is there anything in there that gives you concern?
Nothing that jumps out at me in particular.
Okay, good. So do I have a mover and a seconder? That's what I find out.
All that work and no one's gonna move it.
Richard and seconder. There you go. Those in favor? Okay, well, deem it unanimous.
They said is water an issue.
Sorry?
I don't think Islands Trust raised water as an issue. I was just looking.
You're looking at the
They did.
transcript?
Did they?
Yeah.
Where?
Oh, in the chart.
Oh, in the chart itself.
Yeah, the chart I found from.
Yeah, I didn't find it in the dialogue. That's why I was worrying about it.
The chart was a little bit of a, in a way, I'm sure, Daniel, you see it as marching orders as well, right? You look tired, Daniel.
That's so nice.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn unless anyone has anything further. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Brenda moved,
Thank you, Lydia.
doesn't require a seconder. And Lydia, thanks very much.
Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.